Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sabrina Kofer, and on behalf of PLA, I'd like to welcome you to today's program, Innovative Engagement for Libraries Using Sport, Physical Literacy, and Wellness to Engage and Support Your Community, which is sponsored by HiveClass. Before we get started, I'd like to point out just a few features of the webinar software. All of the attendees who join the presentation are automatically muted and your cameras are off, so don't worry about generating any noise or feedback. We've got that taken care of for you. In the main area of the screen, you can follow along with the presentation materials. To adjust the size of the slides or video, you can use the divider in the middle of the screen to slide the sizes to your liking. We are using the Q&A feature today. Please use it to ask questions of our speakers and to submit any comments. We'll answer as many questions as we have time for at the end of the presentation, so please do type your questions into the Q&A box as they occur to you. You can also use the upvote feature to highlight questions you like or would like to be addressed. Also, there is closed captioning available for today's session. To toggle the automated captions on or off, please use the CC button on the bottom right corner of your screen. Last, please note that we are recording today's program, and everyone who registered should receive a follow-up email with a link to the archive version. And with that, we're ready to get started, so I will hand it over to Adam.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sabrina. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're watching this from. We appreciate you joining. We had a great number of interested parties, so we had over 800 registrants, and we're happy to see you all here in spirit and in mind. So thank you for joining us today. The HiveClass team will be presenting on innovative engagement for libraries. How do we use sport, physical literacy, and wellness to engage and support your communities? So as we think about the state of our society in regards to physical wellness, activity, and health, intertwine that with the roles that you all play as libraries in your communities, we are presented with an opportunity to make real change for your communities and for society. So over the next 45 minutes, it's my hope and our hope that you learn a few new things, identify concepts, and reflect upon how this relates to yourself, your patrons, and your community as a whole. So not only do I hope that you leave today with new concepts, research, and best practices around health, wellness, and physical education, I hope that you leave inspired to try new things to meet the needs of your community. So again, thank you for joining us. And a really special thank you and shout out to Public Library Association, American Library Association for this opportunity to present this educational webinar. And thank you for Sabrina and Ashley for the work that you both have done to help organize this and make this a success that it already is. Quick introductions about the presenting team that you'll be listening and learning from today, and hopefully asking questions about and of later on. My name is Adam Schaefer. I am the Chief Growth Officer here at HiveClass. I'm a former music teacher, but forever a teacher. I've taught high school choir and drama in Southern Illinois, which is originally where I'm from. Like I mentioned at the outset, I'm based in Chicago now. I have a social impact MBA, so I'm very passionate and focused on finding ways to utilize business for good for our society, specifically around education, equitable access to quality things that can really improve people's lives. So that's what I'm all about. My email's there, so feel free to take note of that. Illy?
Hi, everyone. My name is Illy Erster. I am the Director of Marketing at HiveClass, and my background is in public relations, communication, and marketing, so I'm a storyteller at heart. I am also a mom of two very energetic little boys, and I spend a lot of time volunteering in their schools, at the school library, and at other community organizations. So this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and I look forward to sharing more about it later with you.
Excellent. Thanks, Illy. And you may notice we also have Sharon Sir here. Excuse me. Sharon is on the HiveClass team, and she will be managing the Q&A at the end and moderating all those great questions that you drop into the Q&A box. So just a real quick about us. Who are we and why are we here to speak with you and be with you today? So HiveClass empowers educational institutions and the youth they serve with equitable access to innovative tools that foster mind and body wellness. So it's really what we're all about. We're trying to find ways to empower you as organizations, individuals, communities with equitable access to ways that we can get up, move our bodies, learn how to be physically active, get those skills going. So we're going to open up for a quick poll, two-question poll. We're going to ask two very straightforward, simple questions. So I invite all of you to participate. This poll will be open for just about 30 seconds or so while I go through the rest of this slide. So again, we really appreciate your participation in this. Going on about HiveClass, so we were founded about 3 years ago in 2020. We brought on our first clients, or we started our first client partnership in the middle of 2022. So we've only been at this in the market really for about a year and a half now. We're already in 16 states. You see those 16 states highlighted. There's a lot of states still that we are yet to really march into and discover. So hopefully many of you are from those states that we can start to connect with, and we look forward to engaging with you over the next 50 minutes, and then hopefully afterwards as well. Just to highlight a couple of things at the bottom there. So those are just a few of our clients. We work with some of the largest library institutions in the world, all the way to some of the smallest. We love all types of clients. We work with New York Public Library, the U.S. Department of Defense, so very large institutions. We work with Aram Public Library, which is from a very small rural town in Wisconsin. So we love serving all types of communities across the entire country. So thank you for taking that poll. Let's see what we have here. And I'm going to jot these responses down. So do you have sports-related resources? 68% of you said yes, that's great. And 32% no. And then how many of you know the Warrior 3 pose? So we were asking about yoga. 38% of you said yes, and then 62% of you said no. So again, thank you for participating there. Move in here. So real quick, learning outcomes. Not going to highlight every single word you see on the page, but I do want to just preface that we do have learning expectations and learning outcomes of ourselves, and appreciate and value the time that you gave us. So we want to make sure that this is a highly educational experience for you also. First learning outcome, we want to focus and understand on the connection between community engagement and physical wellness. The second one is we want to find ways to define how physical activity works with programming at the library level. And then lastly, we want to give you clear examples of those programs that you can implement, whether that be through HiveClass or through your own programming. So I want to start now with the why. So why is HiveClass interested in doing this? Why are we passionate about this? Why are we spending our time, resources, and career in solving these problems? So why do we do the work that we do? First and foremost, it's about the benefits of physical activity. So when we think about children and youth, children and teens, physical activity leads to better grades, improved school attendance, on-task behaviors, confidence, and sense of self. So as we go through the next several slides, always think back to those points that I just highlighted there: better grades, school attendance, on-task behavior, confidence, and sense of self. Going further, as we think about lifelong physical activity skills and benefits, it improves cognitive performance. It improves concentration, and it improves memory. So things that benefit our lives throughout our lifespan, not just in those early childhood years. And sorry if you're hearing some background, it's a great time to have construction outside. Increased engagement in physical activity, sports, and recreation decreases the probability of obesity. So I'm going to go through some stats in just a minute that may alarm you, shock you around obesity. And this is one area of benefit for physical activity that we can solve some of those problems. Lastly, physical activity can contribute to pro-social behaviors and combat antisocial behavior. So keep that in mind as we go through this. So again, we'll focus on those benefits as we thread through the next several slides. The benefits go beyond just the physical and academic, though. When you really think about it, physical activity helps with self-confidence, helps with happiness, how you're feeling about your body, about yourself, and how that leads you to interact with your society, with your careers, with your families, with your friends, with your kids, parents, whatever it is. That impacts your career, that can impact your economic mobility, really impacts your sense of self and your social connectivity. So as we think about all of the different ways that physical activity can play a positive part in our lives, we can't understate it enough that we really do need to find ways to empower you as community leaders, as change makers, to find ways to help your patrons, to help your young learners to be more physically active. Real quick, I'll just set up the next several slides. So we're going to look through some challenges and struggles from 4 different lenses. We're going to look through it from an individual's lens, from a community's lens, from an equity standpoint, and then from a library lens. And I do apologize, the next 8 or so slides will be a little on the alarming, maybe possibly depressing side, because there's a lot of kind of scary state of society out there around physical wellness. So we want to just level set, have a true conversation, authentic conversation around that, so that we can help solve those problems. So in the sense of struggles for the individual or the individuals, 1 in 6 young people in the United States has obesity. So that's around 20%. When we think back to the 1980s, that was around 5%. So within my lifetime, we've gone from 5% to 20%. If we think about physical activity, fewer than 1/4 of US high school students are physically active for at least 60 minutes on a daily basis. So we combine all of this information, all of this data, and we trend out to 2050. So we go another 30 years, and more than 50% of young people will be obese if we continue on this trajectory. So these are serious issues that we have to face as a society and as individual communities. And how do we play our parts as individual change makers to solve for these problems? Again, going further into those struggles for the individual, especially coming out of the pandemic, where sense of self and mental wellness has been such an important part of what we're trying to solve. 42% of students felt persistently sad or hopeless, and nearly a third experienced poor mental health, and that was in 2021. As we think about other impacts of the individual self, we think about absenteeism in middle school, high school. We think about graduation rates. We had a positive trend for about 20 years, and then we hit the pandemic, and now we're kind of on the downslope again, where graduation rates are decreasing once again. So think back to that first bullet point that I talked about, the benefits of physical activity, benefits of school attendance, graduation rates, academics, sense of self. So those are all different areas that we can utilize physical activity to solve for these. Next, focusing on struggles for the community. The lack of physical activity impact on community and society as a whole. So in 2021, I believe it was, the World Health Organization put out an alarming study that highlights this. Inactivity or sedentarism is one of the 10 leading causes of death and disability in the world. Each year, around 2 million people die because of non-active lifestyles. Their study also found that anywhere between 60 and 85% of populations in both developed and developing countries lead sedentary lifestyles. So this is all a recipe for continuing that trend for inactive lifestyles, for increased obesity by 2050. So this really is, once you put into the context of that layer, it is a much larger public health crisis than we're really realizing it. But don't be too alarmed. We're going to come back and leave you with several ideas on how to solve some of these in just your community, wherever you may be. Struggles for the community. Again, thinking back to how individuals meld within a community. Research has found strong association between the extent of the sense of connectedness and belonging of the level of well-being. So 49% and decreasing feel like they feel a part of their community. So as we think about our societal situations and issues and challenges, that is an ever alarming data point that we should think about. How do we solve that? We want to play a part in doing that, in solving it through physical activity, through learning how to use your body, being physically well and healthy. Now, switching lenses here, struggles for equity. So we think about the disparities between access in physical engagement and physical activity in sports in general. So in 2022, the average family paid almost $900 annually for one child for one sport. So as we think about socioeconomic differences and basically money available to spend on sports, the disparities are ever increasing. So participation in youth sports for families making under $25,000, it was found that 21% of children participate in youth sports. For those making over 100,000, it is almost 43%. So a massive difference there that we need to find ways to bridge that divide. And then thinking about physical activity, it's that same report I mentioned earlier. So physically active for 60 minutes for 7 days. So basically getting your daily physical activity on a daily basis. These are the statistics. So across the US, excuse me, across the US, it's 23%. But then we look at the divides between gender, between grade levels, between race and ethnicity. There are great disparities in there that we need to find ways to solve for those inequities, for the lack of access, for the lack of inclusion. We will talk to you just briefly about a solution that we believe helps bridge that divide. And now switching lenses to that fourth concept, struggles for the library. Just checking my time here. Struggles for the library. So we know you all have great successes, great opportunities. You also have challenges, individual challenges that are unique to your own community, challenges that are pretty common throughout the country. So these are four that I just wanted to highlight that you all face. Would love to hear your feedback during the Q&A around this. So first one is patron engagement. As we think about how as a institution you continue to bridge and connect with your patrons, with your community, how do you continue to engage with them, especially as our trust in public institutions continues to kind of devolve, unfortunately. How do you all continue to engage with them? Second point is relevancy. We are in an ever-changing world where it seems like TikTok is taking over more and more of our brain space. So how do we make sure that we are continuing to engage with the modern learner? Last one is underserved populations. How do we make sure that the community-focused institution that is a library continues to be inclusive and equitably accessible to all patrons, that serves their needs, that serves the greater society's needs for those communities? And lastly is programming. We know programming is highly important to libraries, but we know that it is demanding in time, it's demanding in resources, and it's demanding in skills, talent that maybe you might not have capacity for, that you need additional resources for, or supports and such. Just a note there on the right, programming accounts for 10% of all visits, over 10% of all visits for libraries, and that's an increase of 80-ish% over just 12 years. So that is an ever-increasing part of who you all are and what you all do. So it's finding ways to solve for that. That's really important. And hopefully you can hear that strange construction sound going on. It sounds like aliens attacking. But moving right along, one more slide on the struggles for the library. So as we march further into the digital world, we have to think about how an organization such as a library continues to evolve with the trends of society. And that chart on the right just shows the number of visits per year. So it kind of peaked around 2008, 2009, continues to decrease. But the usage of libraries continues to increase, which shows the reliance on digital resources. So how do you as libraries continue to serve your communities digitally and relevantly to make sure that they are getting the resources they need? Again, thinking all of this back into the sense of physical activity. How do you provide digital resources, programs for physical activity, for learning how to move your body, how to be confident, physical literacy? So that's kind of what this whole conversation is about. But we've made it through the struggles, so thank you for bearing with me. We are going to move into how do we build from there? How do we solve some of those opportunities, some of those challenges? But first, you've been such an amazing crowd today that I want to take a moment to do a quick brain break. We're going to take a quick dive into our platform. I'm not going to give a demo or anything, but I want to show just one quick brain break. So a brain break is a concept that is pretty common in schools, community organizations. It's designed to basically break up your day, break up whatever you're focused on, to get you moving physically, to do something fun, sometimes a little goofy. So we're going to go in and together do a brain break. I invite you all to participate wherever you are and wherever. may be situated. We're going to do the rib cage isolation. So if you are able to participate along with us, I invite you to watch the screen. You'll see our platform. You can watch myself and Sharon from a standing position. Illy will continue doing this from a seated position if you need a modification. So let us get right into a quick brain break together.
Hey Hive Colony, we are going to warm up our bodies using isolations. All you need is yourself. Moving on to our rib cage isolations. This will help with some more hip-hop moves that we'll learn later on. We'll start by arching our backs, which will move our chest forward. Next, we will curve our back, moving our chest in. Next, we'll lean left, then move back to center and lean right. And we'll move back to center. For each move, make sure your knees are soft, a little bent, and your stomach muscles engaged. Try to only move your chest, nothing else.
All right, we appreciate your participation. Hopefully you got a little blood flowing. We've come out of a 15-20-minute conversation around some pretty deep struggles around our communities, around our societies and individual young people that we want to help solve. And that was just a way to get the blood flowing. So hopefully you're feeling great now. So let's dive back in. So physical literacy for all. So again, how do we solve for the individual, for the community, equitably, and then for the library? So those are the same four lenses that we're going to look at for this solution part of the webinar. And let me do, I'm not going to do, I will. I just pushed the button. So physical literacy for all. Everyday libraries give their communities access to independently learn languages, cooking, crafting, coding, for example. But does the individual have access to be active, to learn how to move their bodies, to build physical literacy, to discover new sports and develop lifelong healthy habits? So at the outset, we asked how many of you had those resources. 68% of you said yes. 32% of you said no. So those are things to think about as we try to engage and solve in those areas. At the outset, we also asked a question around Warrior 3 pose. So a lot of us know some basic yoga poses, but how, if we want to learn more, what do we go, or where do we go to learn more? We're going to do a quick dive into our platform again to showcase how we can learn something such as Warrior 3 to build upon our physical skills. So again, just going quickly through, this is our platform. We're going to go into yoga. We're going to do a quick lesson to showcase how do we learn a physical trait that we can take with us, that we can do to be more physically active.
Our next Before we settle in, check your surroundings and make sure you have a safe space to work. You will need a yoga mat or a towel. If you have phone blocks or cushions, they're great to have nearby too. Start by standing with your feet hips wide apart. Inhale. Step your non-dominant foot forward and shift your weight onto that leg. Lift your dominant foot as you hinge forward. Exhale and lower your torso, bringing your body parallel to the ground. Extend your arms out in front of you and stretch your fingertips out. Exhale and continue to breathe, focusing on a point on the floor. Return to center and repeat on the other side. For more support, bring hands to blocks on the highest height, directly underneath your shoulders. Lower your back leg and bring your toes closer to the ground. Keep your focus and practice your breathing throughout the rest of the moves.
All right, so now hopefully at the outset, 38% of you said you know how to do Warrior 3 pose. now hopefully 100% of you know how to. So learning new traits, learning new ways to be physically active, to be physically healthy along the way. Let's get back into this. So again, now you know, this is a way in which you can instill physical activity in individuals, giving them access to resources, to content, to ideas on how to learn to move your body. The more physical skills you know, the more you can explore an active lifestyle. So again, new ways to engage with patrons, and then new ways to be well. As we think about different types of engagement through physical literacy, it's important to highlight a few different concepts here, and those are the bullet points on the right. So when you, as an individual, want to approach a resource or a physical activity engagement, you want to think about choice. Do you have the options to choose various things? We don't want to assume that everyone just loves basketball, so we're only going to teach basketball. We want to make sure that people have choice and independence and personalized learning to make that self choice and allow their voice to be heard in that decision. Something that is really helpful in kind of discovering what you like is a concept called sport sampling. Not everyone knows exactly that they're going to be a tennis player or a soccer player, but if they have a choice early on in their childhood and youth, and they have options to explore those, those are great ways to allow them to discover that. And again, finding ways that they are engaging in resources that their libraries have. The third bullet point is incredibly important, and we take to heart at HiveClass is representation matters and voice matters. We want to make sure that the content that our platform is providing to the community is reflective of the community. And I think that is a great way for libraries to continue to serve their communities so that they are reflected back in the resources that they have, which then would lead to greater engagement overall. And then hopefully leading to greater physical activity and wellness. Already mentioned personalized learning, lifelong skills. This is what we've talked about, is learning how to move your body, learning how to be physically active, but also learning the value of being physically active. Those are all important things that should be instilled in all of these resources that you're hopefully providing to your community, that can be taken far beyond just kind of childhood and youth, but it's a lifelong skill. And then adaptability and access. And I have a slide on this in just a little bit around the importance of making sure that individuals feel like they can still access their resources, no matter their physical diversities, neurodiversities, preferences, whatever it might be, making sure that they can still engage in those resources, programs, platforms, thus increasing engagement. Now switching over to a sense of community or building your community. We highlighted from the last slide in this challenges section around the importance of programming. Programming is a great way not just for individuals to engage in learning content, but to engage in in-person activity, to engage in being around their peers and their neighbors. So this is a great way to build senses of community, integrating programs, relevant physical activity content to increase engagement and solve for mind-body wellness. So you're doing multiple things at once when you put on physical activity programs. One of the things I highlighted is not every library is equipped with those resources, or perhaps the librarians don't feel confident putting on these programs. So in those instances, how do you use a technology? How do you use a resource to make them comfortable, to empower them to still be okay with putting on a program for yoga, for putting on a program for water safety or self-defense or combatives or pickleball? You all can utilize the technology that enables them to still have those programs. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. And then lastly, how do you work in the community? And I'll highlight this in another slide in just a moment, but after school programs is a great way that libraries can kind of interconnect and intersperse their resources for different types of organizations out in the community. I'm going to highlight this, or show this video real quick. It's going to highlight two different clients of ours that have utilized the program over the last year. One is an after-school program, and that after-school instructor is not a PE teacher. They have no physical education training or education. They utilize the platform and then bring their kids together to be physically active. So this is just a quick example of how you can do this in real life.
Hi, my name is AJ Dodd. I'm a physical educator at Catherine Johnson Middle School.
Hi, friends. How many of you have ever tried HiveClass before? So a lot of you? What do you guys think of it? All of us have. My name is Erin Hankins, and I'm the site coordinator for the expanded learning program at Sunset Elementary. It starts off with, let's say, high knees, and then jogging in place, lunges, squats. It just gets the kids moving. I think having the screen there, they get a little bit more active with it because the kids love a screen.
I've been using HiveClass for about 1.5 years now. Last year was my first year, and then I've been using it through this summer school. Yes, actually, I do use HiveClass to calm my students down. So what's really cool about HiveClass is they have this, they have curriculum that is specifically geared towards mindfulness. And so we use that, we watch the videos, students get to take a break, they get to relax.
They have those breathing videos, those techniques, and they also are kind of conversation starters in there as well.
So that was just a quick example of what it's like in real life. You notice when Erin was talking about how they utilize the platform. You saw it in a kind of non-physical activity space. It was in just a standard classroom. So this can perfectly be utilized in a library space, in a common space, in a community space. So finding ways to build community through programs, through incorporating resources that empower your instructors and your librarians to do this type of program.
Hi, my name is AJ.
I'll watch that again. All right, so then the third lens here that we're looking at is building equity. Again, how do we disrupt those disparities that we talked about in the inequities in access to being active in sports? So information is the great equalizer in equity. Having those resources for your community will help disrupt those disparities that we talked about. So if we look on the right, very common to the building individual sense, it's the same benefit. So if we think about choice, giving choice allows for a more equitable approach and more inclusive approach to being physically active. Same thing with sports sampling, and then representation. That's incredibly important for learners to see themselves in the products and in the resources and in the libraries that they are engaging in. If they feel like they are welcomed, if they feel like they are represented, they will be more engaged, they will be more active, and they will have more sense of belonging. So again, solving for a lot of those problems that we talked about from the outset. And then lifelong skills, adaptability, and access. So I'm going to switch to this last slide here. Second to last slide, around access, adaptability, and assistive technology. So it's important that that librarians and libraries across the country continue to build options and opportunities and resources that are accessible to all patrons. So if a patron cannot interact or consume the resources, they're not going to engage with them. So how do you find ways through technology, through programs, activities, to make sure that those learners, that those patrons with perhaps physical diversities, neurodiversities, are still able to access those resources and programs. So including things like assistive technologies, modifications, adaptions to what you're offering is going to increase both the engagement, but also the impact of what those are. As you notice, the modification, when we were learning the Warrior 3 pose, about 3/4 of the way in, the model and the instructor switched to a modified version of Warrior 3. So you notice how that was incorporated into the lesson that we all learned. So it's perfectly fine if you aren't, aren't able to do the full Warrior 3. Then how do you do that in a modified sense? So making sure that those programs, that those resources that you all provide to your community are equitably accessible. And then the last two slides that I'll go over around that fourth lens of building the library. So a healthy body, again, is a healthy mind. Two seamless things that are important to invest in for your own sake, for your community's sake. According to PLA, in their survey in 2022, more than 17% of libraries are or were considering adding health and wellness resources. So at the outset, we asked how many of you have something like this, a health and wellness resource. 68% of you said yes, 32% maybe are still looking. So we definitely invite you all to stay connected with us after to have more of that type of conversation with us and our team. But we believe strongly in the idea in the concept of diversifying your resources to make sure that you're meeting the needs of your communities. And especially as we face the problems that we face that I highlighted at the first section of today's webinar, there are significant opportunities for libraries to play a part in changing the wellness dynamic of our own communities. Again, I highlighted a lot of kind of alarming, maybe depressing stats at the outset that may be too daunting for one person to think, I'm going to conquer that, I'm going to solve all of those. They really can't be solved by one single person. It's going to take a village to solve these societal situations. So you as public institutions have the opportunity to strengthen those changes in our society and strengthen them through partnerships with organizations to basically multiply or amplify what you're doing. So we found that library clients often work with after-school programs, which I highlighted in that video, with schools, with nonprofits, with senior center homes and centers, and parks and rec departments to amplify the resources that you're trying to provide to your community, that then build engagement both for your own resources, your in-person programs, whatever it might be. So finding ways to partner with your community organizations can help build those engagements. So that is it from me. I do appreciate the time, and looks like we're pretty close to on time. So I'm going to pass it over to Illy for the next section.
Thank you, Adam. That was a really great way to set the stage. We talked about the why, the what, and the why. And for this next section, we're going to talk a little bit about the how and give a couple of activity examples of how you can implement active engagement and active programming in your library space. The first activity idea that we have to share is an exploration challenge. This one, Adam, can you click the...
Yep.
There you go. An exploration challenge. So this one is all about freedom of choice. And before I dive into it, I want to talk a little bit about how important it is to, for ourselves and for our community, to encourage ourselves to step out of our comfort zone and to try new things. There are scientists at Columbia that have discovered that learning new things can prime our brains to adapt to changing circumstances. And if there's anything that we've learned over the last couple of years, it's how important it is to be adaptable. And then some additional benefits of pushing our boundaries and trying new things and exploring new things is that we overcome fear, we increase our creativity, we can try new things and figure out what we like and what we don't like, foster some, mental well-being and happiness, and also foster those relationships with our community, because you never know who you're going to meet when you do try something new. So this exploration challenge, there's really no wrong or right way to do this. It really depends on your library staff, your space, your, what you've got going on. But basically, utilizing the HiveClass platform, you can host week-long, month-long, quarter-long challenges. It could be a once-a-week program where you invite people to come together and learn new skills in any given unit. It could be grouped by ball-based sports, popular activities, foundational activities, really, whatever floats your boat in that moment. One example that I can give is that in October, the NBA season just kicked off, and basketball is a very popular sport. So leading up to something like that, you could host a month-long exploration challenge for basketball, where in week 1, you're exploring stretches and warm-ups. In week 2, you learn dribbling and ball control. In week 3, you go over shooting the basketball. And then, week 4, defense tactics, what have you. Maybe you culminate in a little basketball game at a local park. But more than anything, this one also starts instilling that idea of building healthy habits and making it a practice to build a regimen and incorporate physical activity into routine. And then you can also gamify the challenge by offering a prize, an incentive, showing recognition. And it just ends up being a really fun program where, your community members are coming together, they're getting to know each other, and everyone's learning a fun new skill together. Next, we have this idea of discovering the world through sport, or being a global citizen without needing a passport or getting on an airplane. On our platform, we have a section called Reading Hive, where we do have kind of like a digital book display of books that are related to each sport. And they are grouped by reading level, age level, so that they're appropriate for different audiences. But a fun way to incorporate this program into your library space is to set up book displays. Here you'll see in the image that, every sport originates from somewhere. For example, yoga comes from India. So to do this program, you would create a book display with books that highlight the country of India, books that talk about yoga, maybe some fun facts. And then to wrap it all up together with a physical activity component, you can host a yoga class where you learn basic poses, you do a little flow, and it's a really great way to meld together something that the library is so well known for, which is books and that library space, and then bringing this new concept of physical activity and engagement into the space. There's a handful more activities that we can go over here. If you live in a community where sport is really prominent, or there's a specific team that everybody is cheering for, I feel like as a nation, we're all cheering for, what is it, the Kansas City Chiefs because of Taylor Swift now. But leading up to these big events, or if you're in a community where sports are really big, then you can highlight courses on the platform where young fans of all ages can learn some foundational skills and be part of that engagement when game day leads up. And then there's also a lot of big sporting events that happen, like the World Cup soccer, tennis tournaments, the Olympics are coming up again. And you can capitalize on these events when there's that heightened interest to connect with patrons who are already fans, or to encourage those who are not fans to try something new because of that infectious energy of this big event that's happening. Something, that we hear often is, well, we don't have the equipment to, implement these programs in our space. And to that, I'd say, the idea of equipment in sports is already, we need to address that equity challenge, because there are people nationwide who don't have access to green space or a park, or live in an area where it might not be safe to go to the local park, or their physical education program at school doesn't have a basketball court or equipment. So to that we say, no equipment, no problem. And there's just a handful of ideas right here of self-defense, dance, fitness, yoga. These are physical activities that require no special equipment, no special accommodations. They can be done anywhere, anytime, at leisure. And it's okay to practice these skills in these in the other activities without any equipment. That being said, there are some common equipment substitutions that we've familiarized ourselves with and share with our partners. So if you're running a fitness program or a strength program but don't have weights on hand, then we can use canned foods, water bottles, rolled up paper, a rolled up towel or a sweatshirt. For your younger audiences, we could do balloons for volleyball, or smaller balloons for tennis. We all know how much they love to play with balloons. And the last little idea is to challenge patrons to create their own blank sequence. So if you're leading a program in yoga or dance or self-defense or fitness, after they've learned a couple of foundational skills or some poses or choreography, you can challenge them to put together their own routine, where it can be drawn out, it can be written out. And then for those that are brave, they can present it to the group and do a little talent show, teach their choreography, and it again becomes this fun community casual experience where people are bonding, being active, and having fun together while being, encouraging these healthy habits. So as I wrap up these are just a couple of examples that we have on hand, but as we wrap up this section on just activity suggestions, there's a couple of best practices and recommendations that I'd like to share with you all. And the first one is that we don't know what we don't know. If we're not given an opportunity to try something new, then we're not going to know it exists and whether we like it or not. And that especially goes for our younger audiences. If we don't give them an option to try something something new or let them know that it's an option, they're not going to know whether they like it or whether they're going to excel at it. You never know when somebody's going to walk into your library space, try something new, and pick up a lifelong hobby that makes a lasting impact on their life and how they use that in their trajectory. And as Adam mentioned earlier, when you find that something that makes you feel good mentally, physically, it's that total body wellness, you're going to excel in different areas of your life. We encourage our clients to partner with other local community programs for collaboration. Adam already touched on that, other after-school programs, Parks and Rec programs. Maybe there's a way to do an equipment rental from a local Parks and Rec program if you have a patron who's really interested and wants access to that equipment. Asking for feedback is really important. Just like we will want to know from you all if what we've presented today was relevant and engaging. When you're implementing a new resource into your space or trying out new programming, just ask your patrons like, hey, was this fun? Did you like this? Do you want more of this? What can we do differently that's going to resonate more with you and your community and your friends? Like, we want to bring you into our library space. So how can we do that with what we have available to you? Rely on your expert partners. As a vendor, your vendor resources are here to support you, and we're your expert partners. And it's important to lean on us and to have those strategic ideas for implementation so that you and your community can make the best out of the resources that you have available. We have ideas and programs that are designed to help our partners figure out how to take advantage of our resource so that you really are providing the best to your community. We're here to make an impact. From our point of view, physical activity is one tactic that we can take to tackle all of these issues that we're facing as a society. And we're planting the seeds to make physical wellness education not only more accessible, but to be top of mind so that it's not something we have to think about. We encourage you and your community to be active, to try new things until you find that one thing that you love and it stops being something that you feel like you have to do and becomes more of something that you're really looking forward to doing and becomes part of your daily practice. And last but not least, walk the walk. If you bring on a new resource into your space and you don't talk about it, you don't share it, nobody's going to know that it exists. They're not going to engage with it, and they won't have an opportunity to do anything with it. So we encourage you all to build your own healthy habits and to prioritize them in your life, and then that'll translate into how you communicate with your patrons. And libraries are such a resource to the community, and they rely on you all to bring new things to them. So that's one way to get this in there. So I hope that this was, shared some insight and inspiration into how physical programming and physical activity can be implemented into a library space. If you have any questions, please leave them in that Q&A box, and we're going to get to them shortly. And in the meantime, I'm going to pass it back to Adam to wrap us up.
Thank you, Ellie. So let's wrap up in the next couple of minutes here. So we want to, again, encourage you all to be active. We want to be supportive in the ways in which you all have resources for yourselves as individuals within the community, but also as you serve the community and individual patrons, to make sure that there are ways to be active and also to be in touch. We want to make sure that you have the opportunity to stay in touch with us. So your feedback matters. We invite you all to participate in this quick 6-question survey that Sharon is going to drop into the chat. So you all are doing a great job asking questions in the Q&A box, but she's also going to drop this link into the chat, but you can also just type it from what you see on the screen here. We invite you to stay in touch, to provide those bits of feedback. We also invite you to learn more. We want to continue to engage with more libraries across the country. So if you want to learn more about the platform, you kind of get a snapshot of. We are running a promotion that if you have a demo before November 30th, we'll send you a much coveted Starbucks gift card. Everyone loves that as we transition from pumpkin spice season to mint mocha season. So we invite you to do that before November 30th. And then lastly, I will just leave it with this. If you have more questions, please utilize that Q&A box, drop those questions in. And with that, I'm going to just leave it back on this. So you have our contact information, you have that URL, but now we're going to open it up for the Q&A, and we've got just about 9 minutes left here. So Sharon, which questions should I focus on first?
Sure. One of them I answered, but I think everyone should know. They wanted to know what languages the platform is in.
Oh, that's great. Great question. So again, it goes back to that access and equitability aspect of a resource for your community. So for our product itself, it is fully available in English and Spanish. We believe strongly in providing platforms accessible to all communities and all language speakers. So we are continuing to build more languages. We often get the request around French, Farsi, Russian, Ukrainian, Mandarin. So we will continue developing those, but right now we are fully accessible. So all videos, all written content in the platform is in English and Spanish.
Great. Another question we have is if this slideshow will be shared.
Yeah, we'll be glad to share this with you. Oh, and I was reading ahead. Sorry, I didn't get to this slide. So I think Allison asked for where was the resource, where was the source on impact of disparities bar graph. This is the reference sheet for all of the content that we put together. So I'll be happy to follow up with you directly, Allison, to showcase which of these links, but we wanted to make sure to be cited and referenced in all of the content that we have today. Yeah, let's see. So Faith asked about sport sampling. This is an interesting question. I'm not sure if I'm going to infer the question correctly, but is there a language or contract libraries should use to be excused from any injuries? So I'm assuming you're asking that from a liability standpoint. That's definitely something to take up with your legal teams to figure out what type of waivers are a common practice if you're doing a physical activity kind of sanctioned by the library. And that's a great thing to make sure that you're well prepared and protected from an organization standpoint. So we recommend looking into that. We're happy to advise on that offline. And then, but inversely, oddly enough, sports sampling, there's research behind the concept of sports sampling, that sports sampling in middle school and high school actually leads to less injuries. So interesting fact there.
And someone is asking if the demo is free.
The demo is absolutely free, so we are more than happy to meet with you. We invite you to sign up, and you can email me directly. I'll be happy to follow up, and Sharon will as well.
There is a really thoughtful question we have about representation and equity and making sure folks of all different body sizes are feeling like they can participate in the platform and use it. And if we are working on having that inclusion in our company and across the website as well in the platform.
Yeah, that is a great question. Thank you for that question, Kate. We do find it highly important to be reflective, and as we said, of our communities. We want to make sure that it's accessible and reflective of those that we serve. And all all different able-bodied individuals, making sure that they are reflected in the content matters. And so, yes, we are continuing to develop more content on the platform itself. We have over 2,000 videos. You'll see a diversity of bodies, body types. We're also including in the upcoming years, we're including development around more content for adaptability, for motor impaired individuals, making sure that there are models in the platform inclusive of that. So it is something that we value greatly, and we want to make sure that it is reflected in our kind of philosophies and our mission, but mostly our product itself.
And thank you for those resources that you shared as well. Kate will definitely look into them. And I do want to say that in our staff, we have people of all sizes represented as well. We had another question that was sent from email before we started, and it says, I am an athlete. My sport of choice is basketball, but I do play other sports. Will you discuss some ways in which one can bring their passion for sport or sports into programming at public libraries for tweens, teens, young adults, and adults? I think Illy shared some ideas with the activities that we have, but don't know if there's any other ones we want to share.
Sure. So Illy, you want to go ahead?
Sure. One thing that I was going to mention is that just because someone is currently familiar with or enrolled in a specific sport doesn't mean that they need to specialize in that sport and only stay in that one activity. There's actually statistics and research that show how dangerous specialization could be, especially for younger audiences. That being said, this is kind of the perfect platform for those who do want to try new things and bring that passion that they have for physical activity to step out of that basketball comfort zone or volleyball or whatever they feel confident in, to try something new and learn new foundational skills in different sports. Adam, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And this also, I want to touch on something else that touches on Kate's question as well. We are a company and a product and a mission that's focused on skills-based learning. So we want to make sure that the foundations of learning to move your body, what we call physical literacy, is the most important part of who we are and how we engage with our users and our clients. So we want to make sure that the content, the learning content on the platform, and the ways in which we engage with communities is approachable for all patrons, all learners of all experiences, of all body types. So you'll see all of the content is very much foundational. It's scaffolded in learning methodologies. So you want to build with those basic skills, be it basketball, be it pickleball, be it aquatics, but there are other physical skills that you can build on top of that. We are all about progress and improvement in building your own confidence in being physically well. We are not about elitism or being perfect in any one particular skill. We just want to continue inspiring and empowering the value and the importance of being physically active. And we do that through technology as well. I'll highlight one question that rose. This is a great question that I don't know if any person on the planet has cracked yet, but how do you deal with millennials? I don't know, being one myself. So finding ways to, the question was, it seems easy to get young kids, parents, and seniors in the library, but it is hard to get millennials in. Any suggestions? Again, finding diverse, interesting, sometimes quirky ways to engage with millennials is what it takes. It's a quirky group, but one of the things that you'll find in our platform and our approach into engaging resources is offering choice and offering the ability to make our kind of personalized learning experiences and decisions to explore different areas that we never thought of. So allowing them to engage in that. One particular area that I think of that can definitely serve millennials, serves older generations as well, is pickleball. Pickleball is all of the craze these days. It's the fastest growing sport in the country. People like LeBron James now own a pickleball league team. So it's a very quickly growing sport that you all are probably familiar with. So how do you do something that's around that type of sport that can be a program, that can be an activity, a learning activity, to learn the basics of playing pickleball, the basics of serving, the basics of volleying. So those are different ways that can continue to engage. But ultimately, solving the millennial thing, that's probably worth a few dissertations to really figure out. And then I think someone asked, yes, thanks, Marilyn. Someone asked if the recording will be available. It will be available, I believe, on the PLA/ALA website, or sorry, YouTube channel. we will also make sure we have it available for sharing as well. Thank you. So any last questions? Sharon, anything else that you wanted to cover? And oh, it's 2 o'clock. Well, there we go.
I think we got through everything.
Great. Well, again, we look forward to being connected with you all. Hopefully we'll hear from several of you after, but thank you for the time, attention, and the work that you do.
Great. Yeah, I'll just echo Adam and say thanks so much to Adam, Illy, and Sharon for taking the time to speak with us today. And thank you to our attendees for your engagement with your questions and your comments. I'd like to remind our viewers that we did record today's program, so be on the lookout for a follow-up email from Zoom with a link to the recording. As Adam said, it will also be posted on PLA's YouTube channel. Also, if you have a few minutes after the presentation to fill out a brief survey, we would really appreciate it. So thanks again to all of you out there for joining. We hope you learned something new from the webinar and hope to see you again in the near future on another session.